What's happening, my Trentum traders, and welcome to a brand new video series that we're going to be doing called the FTMO $100,000 Challenge. And this video series is going to be focused on helping you as a trader secure more capital behind your trading. What does this ultimately mean, and what is the goal of this? Well, one of the biggest challenges that traders face is that they don't have enough capital to go into the markets with to really make it worth the time and effort. If you've got a $1,000 account, yes, there are ways and means of taking, risky leverage and too much risk per trade. There's all these videos of turning and flipping an account $5 to $5,000 or flipping $100 to $10,000. That is possible, but it is the exception and not the rule. And often a lot of people putting out those kinds of videos have probably attempted that kind of target or those aspirations of flipping an account like that numerous times before they actually get it right. And that is not the right way of trading. You want to approach your trading with correct risk management. You want to be a good money manager. You want to stay in the game. You want to preserve your capital. But at the same time, you want to still be able to consistently draw money out of the market. Now, if you've got that $1,000 account and you're a good risk manager and you may be only risking 1 to 2% of your account per trade, on paper, a 5 to 10% return in a month is deemed a really good return. I mean, you are definitely keeping up with some of the better traders out there. But on a $1,000 account, 5 to 10% seems good when you look at it percentage-wise, but dollar-wise, it might seem like, you're not really getting anywhere, and it's, you almost feel that it's not worth your time or effort. Now, one of the ways to increase this is that with no extra work and still producing the same percentage returns with a larger amount of capital, let's say $100,000, that small little dollar return on your $1,000 account now becomes much bigger. And this is where things like proprietary firms come into play. Before, in order to work for a proprietary firm, you needed to have a good track record, you needed to go for interviews, and you physically had to work in a brick and mortar environment at a trading desk, clocking in and out, reporting to a risk manager. And those still do exist, and they exist on a large scale. But with time, things have developed and changed, and there's a lot of online proprietary firms that are now making a name for themselves. What do I mean by an online proprietary trading firm? Well, these companies have a large amount of capital behind them that they are willing to invest behind successful traders that have proven themselves also with a track record, and they will back you with capital, but in a digital online environment. You don't need to go into their office or into their brick and mortar building in order to trade. They have offices, they have a facility, but they give you an account that you trade off. That account plugs into their larger overall master account, and you pretty much just do a profit split with them. And so if you make $10,000 in 1 month, a lot of these different companies offer a 70-30 profit split. You see 80-20, you see 50-50. There's a lot of these different companies out there that are available to you. The company that we're going to speak about, particularly in this video, is called FTMO. Now, they're not the only company, as I've mentioned, but with a lot of the research that I've done around online proprietary firms, FTMO has been around for quite a bit of time. They've won several innovative awards. They've got a legacy, they've got a history, they've got proof of payouts. There's definitely a lot of people that have used them, provided results, and that just sits better with me. Like any other brand out there, certain brands you're going to trust over others. There's a lot of newcomers to the market that are offering better payouts and profit splits at a cheaper price, but they haven't quite had the legacy and the history like FTMO has. And so for the purposes of this video and the exercise and the research that I've done, I've decided to select FTMO as a challenge account to see what it will take to secure further capital backing from a proprietary firm like FTMO and see what that process looks like. I want to take you on a journey with me so that you can see what it looks like, what challenges we face, what hurdles we encounter, what trading objectives we need to meet in order to secure funding from this company. And the beauty of this all is that it's available to absolutely anybody. It's not limited to the country that you live in. There's obviously an age restriction, in terms of, speculating within the financial markets. You need to be of a certain age. But ultimately, this is open to anybody. If you know how to trade, or you think you know how to trade, or you're part of a community like this, like we have at the Momentum Traders Academy, you can literally sign up for one of these accounts, do a challenge and a verification where they test your knowledge and skill about trading. You have to reach certain trading objectives, which we'll run through in this video. And if you prove successful and you meet all the trading objectives that they require from you, they will fund you with capital. Not only will they fund you, they will fund you up to $400,000 worth of capital, which is absolutely massive. And after you've secured $400,000 and you prove to be consistently profitable thereafter, they have a scaling plan that allows you to increase that amount of capital even further. And this is a big win for traders because, as I've mentioned, trading capital often sometimes holds a lot of traders back. They have the skill, they have the knowledge, they have the experience. They've proven to be profitable and successful on a small amount of capital, and now the next step is trying to scale it up. One way is to try and scale up that small little account and make it bigger and bigger, which is possible, but it's going to take time. But if you can get into a proprietary firm like this and secure capital, you can almost increase your capital overnight, and it's a really good way of going about it. In this video, we're going to highlight what is required from you to secure funds from a company like FTMO. What does the process look like? And we're going to take you along that journey throughout this series from start to finish and what our experience is of it. As I've mentioned, FTMO is not the only proprietary trading firm out there that makes things like this available. But as I've said, from the research I've done, they seem to be one of the bigger, more well-known companies. We're not affiliated with them in any way. Just from the research I've done, this is the company that I've decided to go with. And if this proves to be successful, there might be other companies that we look into. But ultimately, I wanted to take you on this journey with me. So let's jump into it and let's get started. All right, so we're going to take a look at a couple of things. I'm going to go through the FTMO website itself. I've also already set up a challenge account for myself. So if you want to get involved with this after you've watched the video and you kind of want to journey this along with us, then by all means, you can go ahead and sign up for a challenge account. Doesn't necessarily need to be the $100,000 account. If you want to go for a smaller one, that's great. If you want to go for the larger one, that's great as well. We just decided to do the $100,000, and that's just the trial one that we wanted to do. If we're successful in this effort and it works out quite nicely, we'll look at taking more and even maybe taking the larger one thereafter. But this for us is just going to be the trial, just to test it out, give you a bit of feedback, give you the experience, show you how this sort of unfolds in real time. And as I've said, if you want to follow along with us, then that would be great. But ultimately, let's just take a look at the website. We'll take a look at the account setup and the process and therefore, and look at a couple of the markets that we can trade and sort of cover the rules, the criteria, and what it will take to get backed with capital from FTMO. So let's jump right into it. I mean, just looking at the front page and just having had a look at the website itself, it looks and seems pretty professional. As I've said, I've done quite a bit of research into FTMO. They've been around for a while. They're quite well established and well known. The website itself looks and seems very professional, and all's quite laid out quite nicely and easy to understand. So just running through it, I mean, the front page just explains a little bit about what a proprietary trading firm is and, the kind of capital that they'll back you with. I think first things first is that, you can actually, the great thing about FTMO is they'll back you with as much as $400,000. Now, the maximum challenge that they make available is $200,000. And then they've got smaller ones, which we'll get into as well. But, you can get backed by them with as much as $400,000. You'll have to take a couple of challenges and verifications, depending on which ones you take. But, the limit there is $400,000. And they've also got a scaling plan, which allows you to grow that $400,000 even more if you're consistently profitable thereafter, which is pretty great. I think there's good opportunity here. Trading with $400,000 is, it's a fair amount of capital. And the beauty is that it's not your capital. It's their capital. There are risk parameters that you need to follow. And if you violate those risk parameters, they shut your account down. So you've got to stay within those risk parameters for the challenge, the verification. Even if you get a live account, you need to stay within those parameters, which is a good practice anyway. Any successful trader practices good risk management, and that's essentially what they're trying to instill here. And they only want good risk managers trading for them. So, just going down, you can see they've won a couple of awards, and sort of here's how it goes. So they've got a three-step process, right? They've got a challenge, which you first need to pass and prove your skills and discipline and achieve the trading objectives that they require from you. And we'll get into those in a moment. Once you've passed the challenge, you then need to do a verification. That's the second step. And this is to, ensure consistency in your trading. With the verification, if you really want to be, risky, and, this is a demo account that they get you to trade. So it's not real money. They don't give you real money first off. It's a demo account just to see if you can reach the trading objectives and do it with trading skills and discipline that you have. And then over and above that, the verification stage is to ensure consistency. So if you get lucky here, you need to sort of prove it second time round over there. And a lot of people actually fall off the boat over here. So either they don't make it or they do make it by fluke. And then the second step just ensures that people are consistently profitable. So it's really important to go into this challenge with a clear trading system. You've got to go into this knowing exactly sort of what system you're going to trade, which markets are you going to trade, how you're going to get in and out, the risk that you're going to take, and so forth. And that all comes, we're going to apply the Momentum 2.0 trading system to this and see how successful it is. So ultimately, once you pass the challenge and the verification, you will then get funded with a real account. And then you become an FTMO trader, you sign a contract with them, you become almost a trader on their behalf. So you don't get that money. They don't give you the $100,000 or whatever it is. It doesn't get deposited into your bank account. They fund you with a trading account. They give you the login and the credentials in order to trade that account with real money. And then you do a profit split. So you might be asking, how do they benefit from this? How do they make money from all of this? Well, number one, you've got to pay for the challenge. So that is almost seen as an admin fee, if you want to call it. I'm pretty sure they make some decent money from that. Having watched quite a bit of videos around FTMO when I was doing my research, I actually came across an interview with the CEO of FTMO. And statistically, he was saying only around 5 to 8% of people that take the challenge or the verification actually pass. And it's no big surprise because statistically, we've spoken about it over and over. Every 1 out of 10 traders are successful over the long term. So, a lot of it comes down to having a consistently profitable trading system that's been tried and tested within the market and that you've got confidence in. Also, a lot of it is risk management and self-discipline and trading psychology. So that's a scary statistic. So if you're thinking about it, if you've got, 1,000 people that apply for a challenge within the month, only 5 to 8% of the 1,000 people land up passing and getting funded. So the statistics are pretty scary, but it's no different to actual real trading anyway. So they're making money from that, right? So they get money when you're paying for the challenge, seeing it as an admin fee. And then ultimately, once you pass, obviously, they back you with the capital. So if you look at it the other way, if you get backed with $100,000 or $200,000 for a small admin fee to take a challenge and a verification, the risk to reward payoff there is massive. So it seems pretty fair. So they make money that way from paying for taking a challenge. And then the other side that they make it is once they fund you, any profits that you make, it's a 70-30 split. You take 70% of the profits and they take 30. So they're making money that way from the traders that are consistently profitable and making money on the live accounts, as well as from the admin fee that's paid for taking the challenge. All right, so knowing your trading objectives. So this is where it gets pretty interesting, right? So what will it take to get funded? How much can you get funded? What are the different sort of accounts and the challenge accounts that you can apply for? So you've got a couple of options that you can choose from here when you apply for your challenge account. You can either, apply for a US dollar, euro, pound, or the Czech account, the Czech krona. Then you can either select from a risk point of view, normal or aggressive, depending on what you select here will change the information over there. And these are the 5 different accounts, the challenge accounts that you can apply for: a $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 and $200,000 account, right? So the one that I said that we've gone for, we went for a US dollar account, we went for normal risk, and we went for a $100,000 account. Based on those parameters, this is what's going to be required from us in order to pass the challenge stage, then the verification, and then to get funded, right? So they give you 30 days, so trading period, right? They give you 30 days in order to achieve a 10% return on whatever account you've selected. So in this instance, because we selected a $100,000 account, in 30 days of trading, so from trade 1, from the first day that we execute a trade, we go live, the challenge begins, right? During that time, you've got 30 days to return 10% on the account. Now, historically, knowing the Momentum 2.0 system, risking 2% per trade, and having all the data that I have and all the backtesting data, looking at that, it's doable. It's achievable and it's doable. There are months that just probably you would miss it. It all just depends on sort of, how the market's going. Nobody can control the market. Nobody's got a crystal ball to see what the market's going to do. But I know that if I, keep on pushing through and, maybe might not make it in this first challenge and might make it in the second, or might not make it in the second, but might make it in the third. But I know that over time and over a large sample of trades, there will be months that I can quite easily hit a 10% return, taking a 2% risk per trade like I normally do. So in 30 days, pretty much call it 1 month, you've got to make a 10% return. You've got to trade a minimum of 10 days. So now this is the thing, right? You can have one big monster trade and, you could hit that 10% in 1 day or a couple of hours, right? But they require you to trade for a minimum of 10 days just to kind of get a bit of consistency, right? But what you can do ultimately is, and what I see a lot of people do, is if you make the target pretty quickly, all you then do is you just open a small little trade each day, like a 0.01 lot on Euro USD. You open it and close it straight away. That counts as an active trade. That counts as a trading day. A small little trade like that's going to have a very, very, very small impact on your overall profit, but it still counts as a trading day. And you pretty much just do that for another 9 days in order to pass the 10 minimum trading days. In terms of loss and risk, now this is sort of where a lot of people fall off the bandwagon. And if your risk management is not on par and it's not on key and you've got poor risk management, this is where you're going to sort of fall off the boat. If you risk too much per trade, they've got a maximum daily loss of $5,000. I think if you click on the actual, the actual objective, it gives you a full breakdown and a video explaining exactly what does this objective mean. So if you want more information about this after watching this video, head over to ftmo.com and read up for yourself. This is very important also for you. If you want to take this challenge, you need to get up to speed and make sure you physically understand these trading objectives. I've been doing research on this for a couple of weeks now, and I'm quite comfortable with the criteria. I understand what's required from me in order to pass the challenge, the verification, and to become a fund trader. So if you want to take part in this, you got to just decide, exactly which one you want to take. Like I said, it might not be the 100. Maybe you want to do the 200, or maybe you want to go smaller. But ultimately, you cannot lose more than $5,000 in 1 day, and that's your floating profit, right? So if you take a risky trade and it drops off and it goes down to $5,000 loss and hits that $5,000 and then pushes back up and is no longer in a $5,000 loss, the fact that your floating profit still hits a $5,000 loss is a violation of their trading rules, and end of challenge, done. So it's very important to control your risk when taking this challenge. So you can't lose more than $5,000 a day. That is closed and floating profits. So you cannot violate more than $5,000 in one day. That $5,000 resets at the end of each day towards the closing session and towards midnight. I think GMT +3 is the time zone that they use. So that amount resets. So you could maybe lose $4,500 in one day and then call it a day, close out all trades, and then wait the next day for the $5,000 to reset. And then the following day, you've got a full $5,000 risk to play with within the day. But this is the big thing, right? You cannot lose more than 10% of your account. In this instance, on a $100,000 account, that is $10,000. The other thing to mention here is because we are using a $100,000 account in this example, this $5,000 is 5%, right? So if you're looking at a smaller account like $50,000, you'll see that amount halves. And it's purely just because 50 is half of 100. So in this instance here, the maximum daily loss is 5%, and the maximum loss overall is 10%. And that maximum loss overall doesn't reset. The only way that you move further away from that is to close out profitable trades. So the daily maximum loss resets as long as you don't go below the 5%. But the maximum loss overall will stay. It's pretty much your equity curve. You start at 0%, and if you lose 2%, lose 2%, lose 2%, right, that's going to keep on dropping down. The only way that you pick that back up is to have winning trades. And that's why it's so important to, number one, control risk so you don't hit the maximum daily loss, as well as the overall maximum loss. If you're risking too much per trade, you're going to hit either of these very quickly. And it's also important to stick to a trading system, right? Because if you know that you've got an edge over the market over a large sample of trades, you will eventually, hit either the loss or you're going to hit the profit target. So these are pretty important. I think this is where, from the research I've done, this is where a lot of people wash out. They either risk too much within a day, they get hit here, they get taken out, their risk management is poor, they hit the maximum loss quickly, they're either risking too much, they're taking too many trades, they're not following a proper trading system. All those things that people always struggle with when it comes to trading is where you're going to sort of fall short over here. For me, the minimum trading days is really neither here nor there. You might make it really quickly, it might take you the full month. It really doesn't matter. This one is a little bit of a challenge because you're not always going to be able to make 10% in 1 month. You have up months, you have down months. That's just the nature and the randomness of the market. So like I've said, it might take, 1, 2, 3 attempts to eventually hit this challenge and the verification. But I know that, eventually, it's possible to hit it based on the statistics that I have. All right, so what is the profit target? How do you pass the challenge? What is required? So you've got to make a 10% return. So you cannot lose more than 10%. That will be a violation of the risk management rules. But the target is that if you don't lose 10% and you don't lose more than 5% within one day, what is the target? Well, the profit target is going to be a 10% return on the account that you select. In this instance, it's going to be $10,000. So that would be the tick the box for the first challenge, right? You've done a minimum 10 trading days. You've achieved a 10% return within 1 month or 30 days from trade number 1. You haven't lost more than 5% in one given day, and your account hasn't dropped below 10% from the initial capital that it was funded with. As I mentioned, this is a demo account, right? So you're not physically trading real money. Like I've said, FTMO wants to see whether you have the skill and the discipline in order to pass the challenge before they're going to back you with real capital. And that's step number 1, right? That's the challenge. In terms of the criteria from what I've selected here for this particular challenge, like I've said, I selected a US dollar account, I selected normal and $100,000 account. That challenge, to take this challenge, the fee that I had to pay was £540, which worked out to roughly like $630 if you convert it back into dollars. It will obviously depend on the currency that you're paying in and the exchange rate and stuff like that. But it's £540 in order to take this challenge. If you change any of this criteria, if you want to go aggressive, It will change the amount. Aggressive changes pretty much the amount that you can lose, but it also changes the amount that you need to make. So it almost just doubles the loss, but it also doubles the profit target. So for me, I thought ultimately I'll just rather stick to normal because based on my trading statistics, for me, in order to hit the normal would be achievable. So I decided just to stick to the normal. And then obviously depending on which account you select will depend on the cost, right? So this is also where you got to kind of weigh it up. Value for money in terms of the fee that you pay, the higher you go up, the more money you can get for a lower admin fee. So starting on the lowest one, for £155, right, you're only going to get backed with $10,000 for £155. A $100,000 account is 10 times the size of this one, but the fee is not 10 times larger, right? So you can see here, in terms of buying power, you get a lot more bang for your buck if you go for a larger account. Obviously, the admin fee is higher, but if you pass the challenge and the verification, you get backed with more capital. All depends on where you're at, what you have available, and how much you want to risk, if I can say, on taking the challenge. So if £540 or $630 seems a little bit too much for you, and you want to go and take a smaller account, that's fine. A $50,000 account you can see is going to cost you around £345. So it's up to you. Play around with it, see which one you want. The only thing here was between these two, going on $100,000 and a $200,000 account, this is the only one where your buying power is not bigger. You can see here that a $200,000 account is exactly double of a $100,000 account. It's £1,080. Half of that's going to be the $100,000 account and £540. So that is why ultimately I decided to just go for the 100. If maybe the $200,000 challenge was lower in terms of fee and it gave me a larger buying power, I might have considered it. But sort of that's why I settled on the $100,000 account, and seems to be also the most common one that most people tend to take from the research that I've done. All right, so that is the challenge part, right? So if you pass this and you meet this criteria, what will then happen is that you move on to the verification stage. The verification stage now is to prove consistency, right? So if you manage to achieve this one, FTMO wants to now see if you can consistently do it again, but they kind of bring the bar down a little bit. They make it a little bit more achievable and a little easier this time around. Because you've kind of already proven yourself in the challenge stage, they just really want to see consistency now. So for step 2, instead of 30 days, you've now got 60 days. So they double the amount of time that you need to achieve the target. The great thing is that you still got, minimum 10 trading days, which is fine. Your maximum daily loss is still 5%. Your maximum loss overall is still 10%. However, your target is halved from 10% to 5%. So on the verification stage, it's almost the same criteria as the challenge. However, you've got double the time and half the target with still the same amount of risk, which is great, right? And for the verification, it's free. So it literally is just stage 1 and stage 2. Because you've already paid here, if you pass the challenge, they just move you over to the verification. You don't have to pay another fee. On the challenge, if you violated any of these rules or you didn't meet the target, you obviously lose this. The only exception to that is if you haven't violated any of the rules, right? So you traded for a minimum of 10 days, you reached the 30-day trading period, right? You didn't violate the maximum daily loss, you didn't violate the maximum loss at all, and your profit target wasn't reached, but your account is still in the positive. So if you started on $100,000 and your account is still in the positive, it can even be $100,000 with $1 profit. It can be $100,000 $1 profit. And if that is in the positive, they will give you a repeat challenge for free. You don't have to repay as long as your account is in a profit. If your account by the end of the challenge, by the end of the 30 days, is not in a profit. If it's below the $100,000 that you started with, that means that your account is at a loss and you negate your retake on the challenge. It's only if your account is in the positive, which I think is pretty fair ultimately. Market conditions are not always perfect, but if you were good with risk management, you still made some sort of a profit, but you didn't hit the profit target and you didn't violate any of the other rules, they give you another retake for free, which is great. So let's just say we pass challenge number 1, right? Step number 2, as I said, you've got double the time, half the target with the same risk criteria. If you then achieve this target, what will then happen is you then become a funded FTMO trader. And this is when they fund you with real capital. They'll give you a trading account with login details. You've got a couple of different trading platforms that you can choose from. But ultimately, once you've passed the challenge and then the verification, the trading period is indefinite. So you become a funded trader. There is no longer any profit target. You can make 1% for the month. You can make 10% for the month. You can even have 1 or 2 losing months. It doesn't matter as long as you don't violate this risk criteria. If you lose more than $5,000 in one day, remember that's floating profit. Doesn't matter if it hits it and then goes back up. That's if your floating profit goes down more than $5,000 in one day, or you lose more than 10% of your initial capital, they will close your live trading account. They will take that capital away from you. So risk management is very important here. Ultimately, in this instance over here, once you become a funded trader, you can even consider to tone down your risk, right? So you can push the risk here a bit. You can do 1 to 2% risk per trade over here during the challenge and the verification. But once you get funded, you might want to just tone the risk down in order to, not get anywhere near violating these rules. And then you can always take another challenge and, have more capital to trade with lower risk per trade. That's sort of, my line of thinking. But ultimately, once you get funded, there's no other criteria. You're funded. You just need to not hit any or violate the risk management rules. And the beauty is if you pass the challenge and the verification and you become a live funded trader, they will refund you this money, right? So you get that money back and you can then take that money and, apply for another challenge and do a second challenge or a third challenge, depending on sort of, how many live accounts you have going already. So like I've said to you, the ceiling in terms of capital is $400,000. So you can do any combination, right? You can take 4 $100,000 challenges, or you can take 2 $200,000 challenges. But the ceiling is $400,000. They do not allow you to take any more challenges once you've reached $400,000. They seem to be increasing that depending on sort of how markets go, right? They actually used to have initially a ceiling of $300,000, and they recently just increased it to $400,000. So who knows, in future they might move it up to $500,000. Who knows? But ultimately, $400,000 is good going. If you make 5%, in a month on $400,000, you're doing pretty damn good. And that's a decent dollar return, especially if you're a trader that doesn't have the means or the capital to really make a huge impact in the returns you're making, right? Like I said, the same amount of work, the same percentage return, but if you've got a bigger bat to swing and more capital, ultimately you could be banking a larger dollar returns with the same percentage return and the same amount of work that goes into it. All right, so the only other thing here that applies to the live trading account that's different from the challenge and the verification is they've got a rule around trading news events as well as holding trades over a weekend. When you are doing the challenge and the verification, because you're trading a demo account and there's no inherent risk to a live account, they allow you to trade news events as well as they allow you to hold trades over a weekend. When it comes to the live account, you've passed the challenge and the verification and you become a FTMO funded trader, they do not allow you to trade news events. Any economic calendar releases, you are not allowed to open or close a trade 2 minutes before that news event or 2 minutes after the news event, right? So if there's a big news event coming out, like some sort of non-farms payroll that affects the US dollar tremendously, and you are long the euro dollar, and that news comes out, and you get stopped out of your trade 2 minutes after that news has come out, within that 2 minute period, that's a violation of their rules. And the reason being is that there is massive volatility that occurs just before and just after a big news event coming out. And that there's a risk for slippage there. What slippage means basically is that you might have a stop loss sitting within the market, and there's a huge spike in price, massive volatility, and you might want to get out at a certain price level, but because there's so much volatility, your stop loss gets filled at a much lower price, which inherently makes you lose more money and there's more risk. And if you think about it from an FTMO point of view, they've got quite a lot of traders within their funded program, and they've got quite a lot of exposure during a news event. And so if a large portion of their traders get slipped out of a trade on a big news event, there's quite a big risk there for them. But 2 minutes isn't bad. I mean, ultimately, if you've got a good stop loss level in place, there's a bit of distance between currently where price is trading and where your stop loss is, 2 minutes before and 2 minutes after, shouldn't technically make a big difference. But it's going to be on a trade-to-trade basis. You're going to kind of have to keep up to date with what big economic news events are coming out. Do you have any trades that are at risk of, getting, hit from a stop loss point of view because of that news event? Or do you have any pending orders that are sitting in the market just before a big news event comes out? These are all things that you have to consider, but they've actually got quite a nice economic calendar, which tells you which news events you can trade and which ones you can't. There's only very specific ones that they don't allow you to get in or out of a trade, 2 minutes before or 2 minutes after. It's not all of the news events, it's only certain ones. And, they've got, like I've said, they've got an economic calendar that details that for you. So, we can go and have a look at the start of a week if we eventually become a funded trader and we pass the challenge and the verification in terms of managing that account. There's an economic calendar that will see, okay, if we're in any trades right now or we're thinking about taking a trade, these are the news events that are restricted, and we just need to be aware of that. So that is going to be a bridge we cross a lot later. Right now, it doesn't matter. As I've said, challenge accounts and verification accounts are really not affected by news events. They allow you to trade it because it is a demo account. And we're also allowed to hold trades over the weekend on the challenge and the verification. It'll be only when we have a live account will we be required to close all trades before the market closes on a Friday. And, if depending on our trading system, where we at within that trade, we can always get back into that trade at market open on Monday. That is the only thing, because when it comes to the trading system that we use within the markets, on my own personal account, I hold trades over the weekend. I'm a swing trader. I can hold trades for 4, 5, 6 days. There's a trade right now on the German DAX that we held over the weekend. And a lot of trades, historically, we've held over the weekend. That's going to be the only thing that we would need to tweak and adjust slightly, is that we would need to close trades on a Friday if we have any open, and we would need to re-enter them on Monday. Which, it's no big deal. I mean, it's just one little extra thing to do at market open on Monday, and we'll have to just see how it goes. Ultimately, I think the upside and the benefit of being backed by a company like this, it's their money at risk, not yours. It's a large amount of capital that you can secure. There's a few rules that you need to be within, but overall, it's not unreasonable. I think it's extremely reasonable for the amount that it costs you, the £540 or the $630 for the $100,000 challenge. $630 it's going to cost you to get $100,000 worth of trading capital. And if you pass this, all the beauty is that you get the money back. So you got to just prove your skill and your criteria and stick to the criteria and prove that you're disciplined and you're consistent. And the beauty is that you can get funded with up to $400,000. Your fee will get refunded if you're successful. And then it's a 70-30 split, which is great. I mean, if you make $10,000, you make 10% profit in a month. They take $3,000, you take $7,000, and they pay monthly. So depending on when you get your funded account and you go live with them, will be dependent on when you get paid out and when there's the profit split. But all of that is explained on the website. I'm not going to go into the details of that. Like I've said, this is going to be a series. So this is the first one. This is just going through what is the challenge, what is the verification, what is FTMO, what is available to you as a trader if you don't have your own capital, you don't have a large amount of capital, but you want to take this trading thing serious. This is a very, very lucrative option in order to, really tackle. But like I've said, it's very important. You can see based on this criteria here, you need to know what you're doing in the markets in order to pass this. Statistically, like I said, the CEO said only between 5 and 8% people pass the challenge and the verification. So you got to know what you're doing. You got to go in with, you got to have a system, a proven system that works. You got to have risk management. You got to have all of that behind you before even considering to take this. And like I said, even myself included might not pass on the first time, because I know there are months that I have losses and there are months where I don't make 10% profit. It's just the randomness of the market. But I know over time, I should eventually hit this thing. So I'm going to give it a go. We've already started with an account. Like I've said, we've already signed up for one account, and we're going to get into the details of that now. So I also just want to cover a few other things here on FTMO around why, just based on comparison, why I think that they've got a really good value offering. They from what I've tested and from what I've seen in terms of the market that they make available, the trading conditions are pretty good. The spread is really tight on a lot of their trading instruments. They make a lot of markets available. So they do have some decent trading conditions, right? They don't limit you on your trading style. So you can be a swing trader, you can be a scalper, you can be a day trader. Like I said, obviously you can't hold trades over weekends. So sometimes your swing trading is a little limited. But we can find a workaround for that. It really is no issue. You can use EA, so expert advisors, like trading bots and stuff like that. You can do hedging and discretionary trading. They've got actually a really good dedicated customer support. I've also, emailed them and had a live chat with some of them to ask a few questions, and they answer really quickly, and they're sort of very on the ball with their customer support, which is amazing. So if you have any questions or queries or something doesn't seem right on your account, they've got a really good dedicated customer support center. Depending on which platform you like to trade, MT4, MT5, or C-Trader, I use MT4 to execute my trades. It's what I've always used. I do all my analysis on TradingView, and I simply just place the order on MetaTrader 4. So that's fine. They offer 1 to 100 leverage, which is pretty good going. I mean, on a $100,000 account, that's more than enough leverage to have multiple positions open at the same time. They've got trading applications and a coach. They've got a whole back end, which I'll show you, which is really nice, a dashboard. They've got a YouTube channel. They're very active on social media. They're sort of very out there and, constantly pushing out updates. And like I said, they've got trading coaches, and they've really, covered all aspects. It's not just backing you with capital, but it's far more services over and above that I think really separates them from a lot of other trading prop firms out there. Like I've already mentioned, they also make a lot of instruments available. You can trade Forex, commodities, indices, cryptos, stocks, bonds, lots. So I mean, that covers it for us. I mean, we trade indices, commodities, Forex, and cryptos. So that ticks all the boxes for me. It's a one-time only fee. And if you pass the challenge and verification, like we've already said, you get that fee reimbursed, and some really nice account analysis. I mean, if you've traded with us or you're part of our community, you know that account analysis and a trading journal is really important. It is a must, and it is something that I put a lot of emphasis on. And so this is a nice to have, just to show you activity with FTMO. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I've got my own sort of trading journal that I use, but this is a great nice to have to show you actual account analysis on your FTMO, because you might trade a personal account and an FTMO account, right? You could run both. If you make decent profits in the FTMO account, any profit splits and payouts, you might have a really good month. You might not need all that profit, and you could channel some of that profit back into your personal trading account. And so, it would be nice to see what is your account analysis on FTMO, and then you might have a separate trading journal for your personal account. So really good going. But overall, they seem like the better option in terms of the research and analysis that I've done. By all means, like I've said, go check their website out, read it up for yourself, and make sure you're crystal clear. If you're wanting to take an FTMO challenge, just be crystal clear on what is required from you before you go ahead and just sign up blindly. All right, so here you go. This is the back end of FTMO. So once you've created an account and you've signed up for a challenge, here you can see that this is the back end that they make available to you. And this seems, it's got all your trading objectives there. So everything that I've showed you in the first part of this video, you'll be able to see how you're progressing on a trade-to-trade basis. So as you're taking and closing trades, this will be updating this dashboard. It's linked to whichever platform you've signed into. So they give you your trading credentials. You'll sign into MetaTrader 4 or 5 or whatever it may mean. And you will be presented with this back-end system. You'll see here that currently this challenge is ready. So I haven't started yet. I've signed up. I've paid for it. I've got my login details. My MetaTrader 4 is all set up. As soon as I take that first trade within the account and I execute it, the challenge will begin. So right now, the challenge is just kind of pending until I get that first trade set up. I'll take that trade and then the actual challenge begins. And then from that day, I'll then have 30 days to hit the profit target. And you'll be able to see how you're progressing here. This chart will show you sort of, your closed trades and your equity curve. It will show you when your end date is. They've got a lot of other stuff here, like economic calendar. This is what I was showing you earlier. They've got an economic calendar that you get access to. If I just right click that, let me just show you the economic calendar. There it is there. So that's the economic calendar I was telling you about. You can see which news events that you are not allowed to trade. So if you've got any trades open, you can go to restricted news events. This is obviously on a live account. You want to make sure that you're not going to get into or out of any trades during these news events. So that's quite nice. And they make it quite nice and detailed. So that's really good. The other thing I picked up is they've got a really nice back-end dashboard. Very detailed. They will show you statistics, your win rate, your average risk-reward ratio, your expectancy, your profit factor. They'll list your trading journals, all the trades that you've taken, commissions, swaps, whether you went long or short, what symbol, what time did you open most trades, was it a buy or a sell, the volume, the symbol. So they've got a really nice back end with lots of detail. And like I've said, they're not just a capital provider. They're equipping you with a lot more tools and things like that I think will make a huge difference overall. So like I've said, once you've signed up and you've created an account, by all means, you can go and really do the digging and the deep diving and go look into all the details and stuff like that. But overall, I just want to show you sort of the setup. What does the back end look like? What do they provide you with? And just sort of give you an overview of that. I think the next thing I wanted to just show you is, they've got a lot of like updates from time to time. They'll show you any sort of, market holidays and things like that. So they make you aware of any sort of, when markets are closed for holidays and how that affects your trades and whether there's trades you should, close out. So they keep you updated with a lot of that. And they also got a list of all the markets and symbols that you can trade. So like I've said, from Forex to exotics, metals, any indices, futures, crypto, equities, they make the works available. And under each symbol as well, like for instance here on Aussie dollar, you can also see contract size, commissions, the trading hours of these markets and so forth, which becomes pretty important when you have a live account in terms of opening and closing accounts. And I think that's pretty much overall from a back-end point of view, a dashboard point of view, the economic calendar and all of that. Like I've said, it's pretty detailed. If you decide to set one up, you'll be able to do a lot more, looking into it. They also make a demo account available, if I'm not mistaken. You can do a free trial, so you can do a 14-day free trial. So if you don't want to pay and start a challenge, but you really want to just kind of get a feel for it and see what it looks like, you can sign up for a trial. But obviously, if you pass any of the trading objectives during that trial, it doesn't count towards a challenge or a verification. It's just a free trial for you to kind of get a feel for what they have on offer. Right, so I'm going to leave it at that. I think we've pretty much covered everything you need to know and sort of all the research and stuff that we've done. Like I've said, this is going to be the sort of first video that we do within the series. We'll keep you updated on the progress that we make, whether we sort of get closer or further away from it. Ultimately, all of this will pretty much fall in line with our live trading accounts. So any trades that we are taking on our live trading account will be the same trades that we take on this account and this challenge that we take. And then thereafter, we'll keep you updated on, sort of whether we make it or not. And we'll continuously doing video updates around this series until we either, don't make it, or we do make it, or we get a live account and all of those things. So we'll do a number of videos within the series, keep you updated on it. If you're also seriously considering taking this, we also more than welcome to you're more than welcome to let us know if you're looking for any help and support in that area. And if it is something that you want to journey along with us and do it at the same time, that is something that, we can definitely help and support you with. So let me know if you're interested in it. And at least then I know sort of, who's taking the challenge at the same time. Or maybe at a later stage, you're watching this video, it's a couple of months down the line, and you kind of now ready to take the step and do it. Let us know, and we can sort of also help you, because we would have, had the experience and taken the journey of sort of how it's gone. So let us know either whether you're going to be doing it now or in the future, and we'd be more than happy to sort of help you in that area. So I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know if you've got any questions or queries. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys all really, really soon. Cheers.